There we go. Anyway, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Out of the Fast Lane podcast. I am your host, Brady Hauser. On tonight's show, we have Flow Racing's Tyler Burnett here with us. And if you're not familiar with who Tyler is, he's one of the head content creators for Flow. If you watch a lot of Flow Racing, you watch a lot of their highlight videos and their shorts and all that. Usually Tyler is on there talking. We'll get to that here in a second. We are just 6 days away from my trip down to Volusia Speedway Park for the Dirt Car Nationals. I'm excited for that. Getting to cover media down there for that this year is pretty exciting. That's my first time getting to cover media for that event, so I'm definitely pumped up for that. I believe you're heading down to Georgia in a couple of days. I think you were telling me about. What are you heading down for?
Yeah, so I was going to go down for Georgia, but they just rained out today. So the All-Star Sonoy race, for the second time they tried to race it, they've canceled it. So I will be at Volusia for the All-Stars, the beginning of their season. And I'm looking forward to it. And then I'm going to head to All-Tech for the short track Super Series race, and then back down to Tampa to go to East Bay for the All-Stars. And that's where I'll end my swing. Then USAC Sprint Car is going to race the week after that, but I will be coming back home. So pretty much just a dose of wing sprint car racing for me in the speed weeks.
Well, first of all, thanks for coming on the show again here tonight. Yeah, sounds like you're going to be pretty busy, and I believe we'll probably get to run it. I'll probably run into you down there and probably next Monday or Tuesday, I would imagine.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you. I know it's going to be exciting for you to go down there and catch out Volusia and see all the racing down there. It's a good time. So, yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on at Flow. It's been a busy winter. We don't take much time off during the winter. You know, we go with the shootout and Gateway and the Chili Bowl, and we got films coming out. So we haven't stopped. That's for sure.
Oh, and absolutely. You guys just got back from Tulsa for the Chili Bowl. So you guys, there is really no off season for you guys, it seems like.
No, there is not. I got sick after the shootout. I didn't want to go back to the Chili Bowl. Then once I got there, I was just like, I'm ready. You know, like it seems like you get one day in you at the Chili Bowl, that practice day, and you're just all the adrenaline just kicks in, and you're ready to go again. So yeah, that's a race where I'm excited at the end of the week when it's about to be over. But then when it's over, I'm like, I'm ready for next year. Like it's one of those deals where you have to live out the Chili Bowl if you haven't.
And I haven't. That's on my bucket list one day. It seems like in the Chili Bowl, having all the talent and the drivers and all the stars coming in, it literally seems like it is the holy grail of dirt track racing. And I'm sure being on the content creator side and on the broadcast side, I'm sure it's just the same way.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of big races. I think I did 7 Daytona 500s when I was at MRN. Did a lot of Southern 500s. I have yet to do Indy 500, which I have been there for like card day and stuff like that, and been around the event. I've been around the Knoxville Nationals during that time, and of course the Kings Royal. I've been to that, but it's just I was telling someone the other day, like big race feels like you just have that sense, like when you walk into a racetrack on race day of a big race, where big money is going to be given away and there's fans, like you just have this feeling, and you get that feeling every time you walk into that building, whether it's the shootout or the Chili Bowl. For some reason, when those lights come on in that building and they build that racetrack, the emotions come out better than any of them. And motorsports, all eyes are fixated on that place during the Chili Bowl because there's nothing else going on, right? Like NASCAR's paying attention, the NHRA, with Cruz Pedregon and all those guys, and IndyCar and F1, even, everyone's focused on Tulsa, which is why it makes it such a popular event.
Oh, and I agree with you there. So we just got done with the Chili Bowl. We're getting ready to go for Speed Weeks. And you just mentioned a bunch of stuff you're doing, but talking about the Chili Bowl here a little bit, a lot of stories that came out of the Chili Bowl, and obviously on the content creator side, you get to talk to a lot of the drivers, you get to have fun with a lot of drivers, including one that I think is the Chili Bowl icon. I forgot his first name. The last name's Bell.
Robert Bell.
Robert Bell. Yeah, that's but getting to chat all the drivers and seeing all the stuff that happens at the Chili Bowl this year, what was your biggest takeaway on it?
Yeah, the biggest storyline heading into Tulsa this year was the fact that Bell and Larson, two of the guys who have dominated in the building for the past 5-6 years, weren't going to be there. It's funny you mentioned Robert Bell. Every time he races in that building, I'm like, it's Bell's night tonight, baby. And we're not talking about Christopher Bell. We're talking about Robert Bell, his cousin. No, I always call him his cousin just because it's funny. But Robert Bell was we did a little piece on him from the Chili Bowl, and he's like he's just an Iowa farmer who loves racing, builds his own cars. Down to earth, not very much money. Does everything he can just get to the racetrack and. Those are the stories that a lot of people and a lot of fans are attracted to. I went into the year, after what Tanner Thorson did out west, nearly winning the Turkey Night Grand Prix, bringing that exact same car back out that he won the race with last year and nearly winning a couple USAC races out west. I was like, man, he's really going to be tough to beat in that building, just the way they ran last year and then returning with the exact same package, basically, that he had. Kofoid that was a story that going into it, everyone thought Bodie Kofoid was the favorite. He had won another USAC National Midget Championship. He had a tough night on his prelim night. Probably was going to win the prelim night if that incident happened where the two cars got together and he had to get around them and didn't make it all the way around them. So that was a bit disheartening to not see him be able to race for the championship on Saturday. But from the drop of the green flag and the Virock, Logan Seavey, Kevin Swindell, those guys, they built the best race car in the building and proved it. When he was passed by Cannon during the feature, I'm like, man, I really felt like they needed to stay out front to win the race, but then he drove back by Cannon and really held off Tanner, who was really hard charging. I thought there was plenty of good storylines still, even without Larson and Bell. I had a great time at the Chili Bowl. Even the 55-lap feature, I mean, they struggled with the track all Saturday. And to get 50 good laps, I thought was a win. And I still thought it was a pretty good race.
Oh, for sure it was. So while you were down there, you were I think you got to hang out with one of my buddies from up here in the Northeast. I believe they came up with a nickname for him, Mr. Adorable.
Who's that?
Chris Moore.
Oh, Chris Moore, yeah. Oh, yeah.
How was working with him? I'm sure he's probably tuned in. So how was working with him?
I talked to him quite a bit while he was down there. He had a good time, both the shootout and the Chili Bowl. I thought he did a really good job on the broadcast. We don't get to hang out a ton just because we're doing totally different jobs while we're down there. I really respect everything that he's done. It's crazy. I was like, I love the big blocks, and whenever in Florida, I try to at least go to one of the races. And I thought he was way older than he is. Like when I heard his voice and I heard him, announcing and stuff like that. When I met him, I'm like, he's like just my age, or just I'm like, I couldn't believe how young he was. But phenomenal announcer. Hope he comes back again next year. He did a really good job out there.
Oh, for sure. And because I do announcing with a couple of sprint car tours up here, and we actually end up going to Fonda and Utica Rome a couple times. So I've gotten to work with him quite a bit. He's quite the character, I tell you. So I want to jump into a little bit about you. You mentioned how you were with MRN for a little bit. We'll chat about it here in a second, because MRN, it's kind of ironic you said that, because usually I don't do double headers for a podcast, but because I'm leaving next week and getting ready to do my content on my main channel, you mentioned MRN, and this Wednesday, because I'm doing a double-headed podcast, Dave Moody is going to be coming on the show, so that's kind of ironic that you mentioned that. But a little bit about you. How did you first get introduced into racing?
Yeah, it's funny. I was going to text Moody and be like, "Really, you're going to come on after me?" That's like. I'm good friends with Moody. I worked with him for 7 years, and such a good friend. I can text him whenever I need him, and he's always back
for sure.
talking to me. But I grew up at Limeland Motorsports Park, 2 blocks from Limeland. I went to Elida High School, which of course in Lima, where I grew up, Elida, Lima, UNOH is there. University of Northwestern Ohio, kind of like a what are they? They'd have like a high performance school, right? Where they have racing people come through there and stuff like that. Well, anyways, they own Limeland. While I was, through high school, was fascinated with sim racing, right? Started a company called Dirt Sim TV. We were one of the first companies to stream sim races back in the day, especially on dirt. I remember Ricky Thornton Jr. Won a World 100 on Dirt Sim TV. I think it was $1,000 to win. So we did a few of those while I was in high school, and then when I went to college, I went to Ohio Northern University, So not to be confused with UNOH. Ohio Northern's in Ada, Ohio. And I went to broadcasting school, went to sports management, and decided I wanted to be I wanted to be in broadcasting. I wanted to be in, I wanted to work in video and in films, and so, and I was in radio too. I was working a lot in radio and stuff like that. So, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go work for Waynesfield Raceway Park and shoot some videos for them and edit videos, and did that for a while. And all of a sudden one day they're like, we need an announcer up in the booth now. And so, Tyler, you're up. So I went up there, I started announcing at Waynesfield. I was there for a couple years, and then I went to USAC in 2013, and announced the USAC Sprint Car Series, Midget Series, and shared the Silver Crown Series with Bob Jenkins, which was a very cool moment for me because of how much I love Bob Jenkins. So got to call Rico's first win at Angel Park Speedway in the midgets. Got to call all of Bell's first wins because that was, Bell's first year really coming onto the scene. So yeah, it was a good time. And then after 2014, I got hired by NASCAR and in college. I started working for the Motor Racing Network as a producer, and I was there for 7 years, and now I'm at Flow. So it's been I feel like I'm getting old, but it's been a good career so far.
Oh, it definitely it sounds like it. So getting to work with MRN, first off, how did all that kind of work out in traveling with the NASCAR tour and all that? How'd that deal kind of come together?
Yeah, so when I was in college, I applied for a position that they had for associate producer, which basically I produced the pre-race show for the Cup Series and traveled and did Xfinity and Truck Series races as a producer director. So I was traveling close to 30 weeks a year when I was with NASCAR at first, and got to see a lot of great racetracks, got to have a lot of fun, got to meet a lot of people. It was a good time. It was a great learning experience. I learned a lot of stuff, especially about network radio and how to produce live broadcasts. And I wouldn't take away that experience that I had for the world. So it was a great time at MRN. I got to learn from guys like Barney Hall and you mentioned Dave Moody, Mike Bagley, Jeff Striegel, Alex Hayden, Joe Moore, I consider some of the best sports announcers in the entire world. I got to work with, so it was a cool time.
And then get to travel to the NASCAR tracks too. I'm sure it was kind of a plus on that.
Yeah, there's not many racetracks I can say I haven't been to, which is really cool. And some of my favorites. I mean, Watkins Glen was always such a great. You're from up there in New York. It's such a great area to visit, right? And such a cool racetrack. It's one of my favorites. I think I was telling my brother the other day. I think some of the more meaningful broadcasts I produced was like Eldora Trucks. When the Truck Series would go to Eldora, that's my home track. So to be able to produce a national network broadcast there was just something that I'll never forget. Of course, the Daytona 500s and the big races, just those big race feels that you got going to all these different areas. My first race was the Southern 500 in Darlington, and I was in love with Darlington ever since that first day I started working there. So I love NASCAR racing. I still watch it. I still have buddies that race in at Larson and Bell and Briscoe and Stenhouse and these guys. So I definitely still watch it every single day and perhaps even make bets on it still. But but I love NASCAR and I think it's a great product.
So are you winning money or are you losing money?
Larson won me some money when he won his championship. I made that bet pretty early on in the season and we cashed pretty good there. Him and Reddick have cost me a few at Homestead and stuff like that, but now we do all right. I when I was with MRN, I hosted a fantasy racing show and we did it weekly. So I am up on the DraftKings and all that stuff, and I played a lot of DraftKings, and now I kind of just make bets on the races. But I'm into all the fantasy racing stuff and including in dirt. You're like dirtdraft.com is amazing. I love playing it. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of addicting, honestly.
So getting to work with Alex Hayden and, as you said, Dave Moody and some of the guys that I look up to and a lot of announcers look up to because, as you said, they are one of the best. Learning from them and kind of getting your way up into being where you are now. How surreal was it? I'm sure it's got to be pretty awesome getting to work with some of them guys.
Yeah, it was amazing. Eli Gold hosted my pre-race show for 2 or 3 years, and Blake Anderson, the voice of the All Stars,
Mm-hmm.
always whenever he talks about me, he's heavy lunch, my nickname, right? Well, that nickname actually came from Eli Gold, which is kind of an honor, honestly. With that, have the voice of the Crimson Tide, and also one of the most legendary NASCAR voices ever to give you a nickname, is cool. But Jeff Striegel, of course, he's the lead announcer for MRN still. I live in Michigan now, and I'm only 50 minutes from where he lives. And I go up to Berlin and hang out with him and his wife Julie, and we're still good friends. That's the thing, is like off the air, like we were so close. Like all of us, we hung out. We went to dinner together. We would go bowling together. We would play golf together. Like we just all hung out, and we were just a big family. And they're also my family today. Like I text them all, and it was such a good time. Yeah, I mean, just what the thing that I took away the most from working with those guys, especially like when you would go to like a championship race at Homestead or the Daytona 500, like, and the biggest moments there is, like, they always stepped up and they never made mistakes, and it was incredible, because to be in the moment and not make a mistake is pretty dang hard.
Oh, for sure. I can definitely attest to that. Quick sponsor. I got to put a quick sponsorship plug in here. Of course, this podcast is sponsored by Parts Companies LLC and Swagger Factory Apparel. Swagger Factory Apparel is actually making me some nice new official shirts from Volusia. You guys will get to see those probably next Monday once the interviews and content starts getting put out on the YouTube channel. So stay tuned for that. They are really cool looking shirts this year. Um, so yeah, so we talk about MRN. So now we jump over to Flow Racing. How did you get into the Flow Racing side of things?
Well, Dylan Welch,
Mm-hmm.
who's one of my best friends. I was just at his
Yep.
wedding last
Mm-hmm.
week. We started a podcast. It's almost 4 years ago now.
The Loud Pedal.
Well, it's the Loud Pedal now. It was called Rip the Fence.
Mm-hmm.
It was at MRN. So NASCAR owned the podcast. MRN owned the podcast, and we really started that podcast just to offer a different audience dirt racing, kind of like Wing Nation, right? So Wing Nation, Steve Post, those guys had a wing sprint car show, but they never talked about non-wing sprint car racing or midget racing or Silver Crown racing. So Dylan and I, both former voices of USAC. Dylan actually announced at USAC when I left, we're like, you know what, we work together at MRN, let's start a podcast to see what we can do. And it became quite popular, and we had a lot of big guests, some of the biggest guests ever, AJ Foyt, Kyle Larson, Tony Stewart, Jack Hewitt, Bob Jenkins, who I mentioned. We even had guys like Dave Despain and Robin Miller, and some of the old Thunder guys. We had a lot of cool, like Raleigh Helmling and some Sleepy Trip, and just so many cool names that on the podcast. And we did it just as an audio show for MRN and NASCAR, and it became quite popular. As streaming started to kick off big time, everyone's watching Flow, right? Everyone has a subscription to Flow because, the USAC National Sprint Car and Midget and Silver Crown Series is all live on Flow. You just had to have it. And then they acquired the All-Stars, and they just started to make big acquisitions. And I knew that NASCAR wasn't my future forever. I had a great time at NASCAR, but I wanted to move back closer to home, and I wanted to get back to having some more fun on dirt, and also the big move was to explore video again, to get back into filmmaking and shoot video, edit video, and do that kind of stuff, which I was primarily working on the radio network. So just the stars aligned. A great opportunity with Flow came about, and I couldn't turn it down. And we moved our podcast over to Flow, changed the name to the Loud Pedal Podcast, which we named in homage of Tim Truex from Loud Pedal Productions, who's still my boss at Flow, and we still work together hand in hand on the website, because he had Loud Pedal Productions, and I grew up, watching the slow-mo videos on YouTube and stuff like that. So, like, let's do it. Let's name that the podcast, and that's kind of how the name came about. So, we're over 100 shows now on Flow. In August, I'll be at Flow for 3 years. So time has been flying, but it's been a great move so far, and I've had a lot of fun at Flow, and I'm very happy with the way things are going.
Hmm. So now I get to go to like track. So we talk about the Chili Bowl, and I get to go to Gateway for the Gateway Dirt Nationals. Get to go to the Dome, which is definitely that's like I think that's like the holy grail of like that's the holy grail of indoor racing. One of another holy grail of indoor racing. Chili Bowl and the Dome are not alike, but they like I guess in size wise they are. I mean, they're both pretty small tracks, but you get to go to the Dome, and I guess as they would say, the Dome brings out the best of racers. Um, Getting to like make content and all that, and having all the. I mean, I think you were part of the Tyler Carpenter Hudson O'Neal situation this year at the Dome, and getting to deal with all that, going and seeing all the crazy stuff at the Dome. It's gotta be awesome. I mean, that Dome seems like it's one of the coolest events around.
Yeah, it's cool because it's some of the late model guys describe it as their Chili Bowl, right? They get the opportunity to race indoors and have all eyes on them, which is amazing. Last year we made a film, Tyler Carpenter versus Gordy Gundaker. It was called On the Line, right? That was one of the projects that I got to work on. Just so many awesome projects that Flow gets to put together in some of these big races and showcase not only the tremendous talent in racing, but also the tremendous product. I mean, dirt racing is the greatest product in the entire world. So it's awesome to be able to go to those huge events and cover them, and you really almost have to humble yourself sometimes, right? Like you're in the moment, you can think of it as a job, but at the same time you have to be like, step back and like, look, man, this is really cool that I'm here.
Mm-hmm. And so and here's I gotta ask about you because I had a couple weeks ago we had podcasts with Charlie Medford. The gateway god, as everybody is calling him. So what was your initial take on that? Because I'm sure you guys have producers in your ear and stuff, and they're probably telling Blake to go down and interview him because he flipped and all that. And then you start hearing that kid rambling off. What was going through your mind when you heard all that?
It's crazy because things like that happen at the Dome and they just kind of write themselves, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't
Like,
even a storyline that's on your radar going into it, right? And he just kind of creates his own storyline.
mm-hmm.
I say run with it. That's what you mentioned, Robert Bell. Like, he just
Mm-hmm.
knows how to embrace the camera, right? And embrace the story that you are. And everyone has their own story, and you can be entertaining and you can be fun. And that's what he was. So yeah, those are my favorite stories to cover, honestly, the more character
Oh
pieces.
yeah, oh for sure. Sometimes there's a lot, and there's plenty of characters in racing, and I guess I can't judge any of them because they're all awesome. I think Kenny Wallace is kind of the god of characters up in the dirt track world.
Yeah, I'm glad that we got to showcase Robert Bell because he, in my estimation, is
Yeah,
one of those
he's
guys. Timez and Robert Ballou and some of those guys are some of the other guys that I've covered over the career that basically just turn the camera on and start rolling, and they will say
whatever they want. They'll say basically whatever they want to say.
That's right.
For sure. Here's a couple questions I like to ask all my podcast guests. It makes people think a little bit. Actually, this question I had asked, I sent to Chris Wilner during the Chili Bowl. It was asked to Santino Ferrucci, so that was pretty cool. If you could race against any driver, past or present, who would it be? What car and what track are you racing at?
Wow. Being able to race. So I don't fit in a race car. So it's like I never had the opportunity to ever race. But if I were to choose a driver that I wanted to race against, it'd be Jack Hewitt. And it would probably be at Eldora. And it'd probably be in a non-wing sprint car. I mean, go big or go home, right? Like the greatest race car in the entire world at the greatest racetrack in the world against my hero, Jack Hewitt. That would be the all-time race that I would like to have.
Okay. And then my second question, so you got Jack Hewitt, Eldora, and Mount Wayne Sprint Car. So here's my second question. I like this one's definitely Johnny. I asked Johnny Gibson, and he was very like it took him a minute to think. This one's a little tough. If there is a racing Mount Rushmore in general, who are the four names?
Oh man, I like this. We had a lot of discussion about this on Rip Defense. And you're talking racing. You can be straight liners. It can be dirt
It can be.
bikes. It can be.
Hey, well, I'll make it easier for you. We'll let you do a dirt racing one, and then you can do one in general.
Okay. So my dirt racing Mount Rushmore would be AJ Foyt, Kyle Larson. Probably. Ooh, this is tough. Maybe like a Mario Andretti, and So we're talking dirt here still. Tony Stewart.
Okay.
That'd be my top four, I think,
AJ
for dirt racers.
AJ
Foyt, Kyle Larson, Mario Andretti, Tony Stewart.
That's a solid.
Parnelli Jones would be really close. Like Mel Kenyon.
I put Kinzer in there. Kinzer and Bloomer. I think Kinzer and Bloomer.
I don't know how I left out Kinzer. That's probably a big mistake. Or Donnie Schatz.
Both Kinzer. Well, when Gibson was on, he said both Kinzer brothers, Mark and Steve. So I guess the Kinzer family is quite they're well known in the racing world. I definitely would put Steve on there.
I made sprint car racing fans very mad with that answer, most likely. I think I just went to the fact that Tony Stewart, I've seen him win in a modified, a late model, a sprint car, a Silver Crown car, a midget,
a NASCAR.
I'm talking about dirt racing, right? And then, of course, Kyle Larson is the same way. He's won in a late model, a Silver Crown car. Kinzer, probably didn't have as many wins in dirt late models and modifieds as Smoke and Larson has never raced a modified, but I'm just thinking about the different types of cars they run, and then of course Mario Andretti, just won some of the biggest races there was on dirt, and so did Foyt. So that's why I just had a little pass mixed in there. I really wish Mount Rushmore had a fifth head because Steve Kinzer would be the fifth. And it's probably a mistake that I left him off because he is the greatest sprint car driver to ever live.
Hands down. So we're getting ready 2023 has started. Flow racing is, of course, I was talking to you right before we got on the air here. I was just watching Bubba like 5 minutes before the podcast started for the Lucas late models. But what are some of the events that Flow Racing subscribers can look forward to this year?
Oh, a ton. Man, well, of course, the Lucas Oil Late Model Series has already kicked off, and so you got the greatest late model dirt series in the entire world streamed on Flow. Of course, the All-Stars return. Their points opener will be in April 7th and 8th at Attica, but they were going to open at Sonoli Raceway, and they got canceled this weekend already. So they're going to begin on the 7th, I believe, at Volusia. So they'll race 2 races at Volusia and then 2 races at East Bay, exhibition races. And then, of course, their point season begins in April. USAC, obviously, non-wing sprint car racing, non-wing midget racing. That's my love and my passion. So the Silver Crown Series, the Sprint Car Series, and the Midget Series, all on Flow, of course. There's going to be a lot more that I miss. The Modified Tour, Dale Jr.'s Cars Tour is going to be on Flow, which is awesome. Some of the ARCA races, getting in the pavement races there for my boys Brandon and Rob. The Short Track Super Series, obviously, Chris. You got to watch the Short Track Super Series. They're at all Tech, a few other races, in Florida. The big blocks do super well on Flow. Everyone loves them. It's a great change of pace, right, to sprint car racing and late model racing to get to see some big blocks ripping. I know you love those things, right?
Oh yeah, I grew up around big block modified racing. That's how my parents actually met. Mom was selling 50-50 tickets at Fonda. My dad was working on a big block modified in the pits, and they met. And I've been around racing most of my life, so yeah, big blocks. They definitely are number one. I gotta say, being a sprint car announcer, I definitely like my sprint cars a little more than I should, but hands down, I'm definitely a big block fan.
I will ask you this before I got to keep promoting this. Of course, we have the Million.
I was just going to ask if the Million's on the Flow.
Yeah, so the biggest sprint car race in the entire world, happening at Eldora Speedway, the 12th and 13th. So right before the King's Royal. The King's Royal will still be on Dirt Vision, but the Million will be on Flow. and then all outdoors, big late model races, the World 100, the Dream, all on Flow. I mean, it's worth the money. Trust me, it's definitely worth the money. But I wanted to ask you, who's the GOAT big block? Who's the greatest of all time in big block?
Well, there's a lot we could. There's a lot of drivers I could debate for that. If we're gonna talk present day, I would say, and I don't want to be biased here, because I'm definitely gonna make somebody mad about this. I would have to say Matt Shepard and Stuart Friesen for present day. Shepard broke a record last year for like the most wins around the Northeast, 41 wins, which is incredible for any driver to do in a year. Um, so I would say probably Matt Shepard, Stuart Friesen. As far as past would go, or all time, and he was unfortunately we lost him a couple of years ago. I would have to say Jumpin' Jack Johnson. Jack has, I think he paved the way for a lot of racers, including his own son Ronnie, who races at Fonda and Utica Weekly. I would have to say Jack because just of how all the stories I've heard about him. I never got to personally meet him, but all the stories I got to hear about him, Jack was one of a kind, and I think he's considered one of the greatest of all time. He's got quite a few Syracuse Mile wins, and he's got plenty of wins underneath his belt. I believe he's even got a couple of sprint car wins too. So he's definitely, I would say, the greatest of all time in my opinion.
Awesome,
Mhm.
good stuff.
And then I could also there's a lot of names I could throw in there. I got to meet Dave Lape last year before he passed away this past summer. I got to meet him earlier on this. I got to meet him last April, and stories that guy had were also pretty cool. He was not as good as Jack in my opinion because I've watched video, but I would put him up there as well. I guess I gotta stick to home. They're both fond. They were both fond of regulars, and Fonda's my home track, 5 minutes down the road. So I guess I gotta say those two.
Okay, so you asked me my Mount Rushmore for dirt. Do I have to give my all-time Mount Rushmore now?
Sure, let's hear it.
All right. Just because I was around him for a while, I think Jimmy Johnson is in my top four.
Seven time.
I think he raced against harder competition than Petty and Earnhardt, and went through more championship formats. Mm-hmm. So among those three, which I think are the greatest stock car drivers of all time, I think Jimmy Johnson is better than those three. So therefore, I would put him as one pillar in my top four. Going to IndyCar, I think AJ Foyt is the greatest IndyCar driver ever. He's also the greatest Silver Crown racer of all time, sprint car midget racer. So AJ Foyt would be in my top four.
There's a lot of divisions here we could go through.
I mentioned Mario Andretti. You can't, he's won the Daytona 500 and he also won the Indy 500. So, well, I'm gonna go with Mario Andretti, and then my fourth might be Kyle Larson.
Ooh, yeah, and I can't disagree with you there. I think Kyle Larson, and I think down the, I think down the road, Larson could be the next 7-time champion with NASCAR, depending on how long he sticks with it. Because there was a lot of speculation on him not staying as long in NASCAR as we all thought, as he wants to stick. Does a lot of dirt racing.
Let's put Petty or Earnhardt in that spot.
Earnhardt for sure.
Let's put Earnhardt just for the impact he had
Intimidator.
on NASCAR, right? So Earnhardt, Jimmy, Foyt, and Andretti. There we go. There's my top four racers of all time.
Perfect. I was going through my drawers a couple weeks ago. I got quite a few storage shelves here, and I didn't even realize I had this. You'll probably respect this. 1969 NASCAR schedule. Well, the cool thing about this, and I'll send you a picture of it later. The cool thing about it is there's a bunch of tracks on here that we were just talking about. Fonda, for example. Fonda this is back in 1969. This was before Daytona was even around. Daytona wasn't created until like 1972 or 71, something around then. So Fonda's on here. Daytona Beach is on here, which is pretty neat. And we were talking about some dirt tracks. The Milwaukee Mile is on there still from back then. So I was kind of impressed. I didn't even realize I had this. I inherited it from somebody, and yeah, so I figured you might find that respect as you were talking about all the NASCAR stuff. I'll add that in there.
That's a cool
Um,
artifact. Yeah, that's cool.
oh yeah, and it's definitely got the age on it. You can tell it's in definitely 1969 paper shape. I would say. Um, well, I appreciate you coming on the show this evening. I don't want to keep you here all night because we're both busy because we're both leaving in days from now. Um, Before we go, is there anything you want to know about me personally, the podcast, anything?
No, I was going through your podcast, and I watched the Gibson episode. I love Johnny Gibson. I grew up listening to him. That was a good episode. I think what you're doing on your Facebook is awesome. I appreciate you having me on the show. I can't wait to see you out in Volusia. See what
Next
you got
Monday
going on.
or Tuesday? Yeah, I'll be around for sure.
Next Sunday, you said you'll be out there.
I fly out Sunday, this upcoming Sunday. Um,
Nice.
and I'm staying with my grandparents. They live in Lamb, which is 10 minutes from the track. So I'm flying in Sunday morning. I'm gonna watch the Clash on Sunday night at the Coliseum because that's always exciting to watch. And then Monday till probably I'm not doing all 14 nights. I'm gonna do probably the majority of them. I'm there right through Daytona 500. I stay till that Tuesday after the Daytona 500. So I'm there for quite a bit for speed weeks.
You'll probably outrace me. I mean, if you're going to be going, to the payment rate, you're going to go to New Smyrna and all that stuff.
I'm strictly doing Volusia. I'm a big dirt fan. I would like to hit New Smyrna one of these years. It's not on my list yet. Maybe one day. But Volusia's. I've been going to Volusia since I was like 5. Since I was a little kid, and
Awesome.
the memories I've created at that place. Like last year, sitting down during the unexpected rain delay during the Extreme Dirt Midget Series race, and sitting in the infield on a golf cart chatting with the late Rick Eshelman for like a half hour. Definitely a memory I'm never gonna forget because Rick meant a lot to me. And just the memories I've created down there, that's just the one that's really stood out to me about that event. But all the memories and the fun I had with that event, I think Volusia's kind of where I want to be for a little bit.
I love that place. Make sure when you go though to bring hats and gloves because it does get cold in Florida, folks. It is it's
Well,
freezing down
and,
there. But
and here's what I like. I tell a lot of people, like, because we're up in the Northeast, and it gets cold pretty quick in the Northeast. It's usually pretty bitter. Even during the summer, it can be pretty bitter. 30 degrees here in the Northeast is a lot better than 30 degrees in Florida. 30 degrees in Florida is cold.
I would take 30 degrees here over 50 degrees there. That's the wind is so bad. It's
and then you got all the moisture from all the oceans and stuff around it. It is definitely cold down there.
It is, but I love Lucia. The Gator Trophy is really cool. I like that they, that's a cool tradition, and I'm really excited to see the USAC sprint cars there.
That's gonna be
the big series, right? The USAC National Sprint Car Series, the what I consider the greatest dirt racing of all. I love pointing my camera at the National Sprint Car Series, right? Like to see it at Volusia is going to be really cool. So hopefully you go to that and check that out. But thanks for having me on the show, man. This has been a good time.
For sure. If anybody does have a question, we have a couple more minutes before I end the live here. Feel free to put that in the chat. Yeah, no. For USACs, because I'm not too familiar. I follow the midgets a lot. I've got friends in the midgets that race and stuff, and I'm not as familiar to the USAC non-wing side. What can a newcomer like me expect?
Oh, well, 3 wheels on the track, one lifted up in the air like this, spiked up in the air. Robert Blue banging the boards with no fear. These guys, Mitchell Moles, who's extreme talent. We saw him win a shootout driller a couple of years ago, but from the West Coast, won a lot of midget races last year, and just watch him in qualifying. I'm telling you right now, he's the greatest qualifier in sprint car racing right now. Just absolutely leaves it all to hang out in qualifying. So point a camera at him. All these non-wing racers are so talented. CJ Leary, Justin Grant, Thomas Meserol. There's some of my favorite racers to watch in the country are in the non-wing sprint car series. So what is it? WRG, they had
Flow
the
racing group. Yep.
extreme. Yeah, they had the extreme sprint car series where they are not coming back this year. So USAC is coming into Ocala like they did or into Volusia like they did last year with the extreme midgets, and so USAC is actually sanctioning a race there for the first time in a while. So yeah, dude, get out there. I mean, the non-wing sprint cars are amazing. So that's like the SmackDown at Kokomo is probably one of my favorite races of the year. Just non-wing sprint car racing is like I said, Jack Hewitt non-wing sprint car at Eldora.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite race car in the world.
For sure. Well, for everybody tuning in on the Facebook Live side of this has been me and Tyler Burnett. Tyler, of course, you can't miss him on Flow. I think a lot of the content you'll see on there. He's one of the creative masterminds behind all that dirt racing content you will see on there. So make sure you go check that out. Check out all the Flow Racing stuff. Flow Racing, of course, there's thousands of races you can watch on there, and it's not just racing on there. Flow Sports in general. There's a bunch of events on Flow in general to watch, and I highly suggest if you're not a subscriber to Flow Racing, here's a plug for you. I highly suggest you guys subscribe to Flow Racing. Definitely worth the money, and for all my local people, you get found in Utica Rome weekly in 2023 if you subscribe, so it's definitely worth it.
I'll give you your audience before I get out of here. I'll give your audience an exclusive tomorrow. Flow Racing's first feature film is getting ready to come out 7 p.m. Eastern time. You need to watch it. It's going to be free. And it's called Legends of Racing, and it's all about the Bettenhausen family, who gave their life, gave their limbs, gave everything to the Indy 500. And Merle Bettenhausen and the boys, Todd and Carrie, who were Gary Bettenhausen's sons, and a few others, Robin Miller, it was his last interview before he passed away. Richie Murray, Pat Sullivan, all these USAC historians, they are going to tell a story of what is one of the most tragedy-filled racing families to ever grace America. And that story comes out tomorrow. 7 Eastern. Get ready, Brady. It's going to be really good. I hope you watch.
I will definitely make sure I tune in. Everybody tuning in on Facebook Live, I appreciate you coming out. We're going to jump off this Facebook Live and finish out the YouTube side of things. Stay tuned this Wednesday. Dave Moody will be on the show. You don't want to miss that one for sure. Other than that, take care on the Facebook side of things, everybody, and we'll see you on Wednesday night. So long. So now we're on the YouTube side of things. We're getting ready to go for 2023. Before we go, anybody you want to give shout outs to, the open mic is yours. And then where can we find you on social media?
Social media. Well, I'm at _ Tyler Burnett on Twitter, I think. I've been testing out TikTok too. Follow me on there. I post a lot of racing videos on TikTok now.
Okay, that's I can relate to you there. Well, I like to do mine's a little different. I like to have a little bit of fun on TikTok. I go up to drivers and I ask them what their random thought of the day is. You never know what you're going to get from a driver. I got Alex Bowman to do it a couple months ago at BAPS, and TikTok. I guess the TikTok community liked that kind of humor, and it blew up. So that's kind of my thing on there. So I
think the TikTok thing is more of a younger audience, and I think that racing definitely needs to hook more of the younger audience. So my racing stuff has been performing pretty well in there. So I've been doing that. I think it's like Tyburn 18 or something like that, or at the Tyburn 18 or something like that on TikTok. So look me up on there. And then of course flowracing.com. Our app is on the Fire Stick, like on your smart TVs and your phone,
laptop.
I think it's still $150 a year. So, and we're adding, just get it for the million. That's really, but then you get the World 100, the dream, like I was talking about.
Chili Bowl,
of course. Yeah. And a lot of big drag racing. I'm up in Michigan and we got a lot of snow. I'm looking outside at the snow right now. The I-500, the International 500 is happening in Michigan. It's a 1 mile ice track that they go around 500 times. It's an endurance race on snowmobiles. It's getting ready to happen coming up. So I want to go shoot video of that. That'd be sweet. But no, I'll see you at Speed Weeks though. It'll be a good time, and Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate you letting me plug everything.
Yeah, so I'll chat with you here a little bit after. Everybody that is tuning in, this is, of course, Tyler Burnett from Float Racing. And make sure, if you see him at the racetrack, make sure you say hello. And for sure, definitely you can't miss him. He's always around with a camera making content for sure. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Click that little notification bell when you hit the subscribe button. You can always unsubscribe. It's free. I got to plug that now. It definitely is free. I highly suggest not unsubscribing. You don't want to miss the content I put out on the out of the Fast Lane podcast page. Like I said, on Sunday I fly out for Florida. Monday night you'll start seeing some live at the track interviews. Not live, but of course pre-recorded and then posted, so you get to me and the drivers next to each other. Just bought a lot of equipment thanks to parts companies. For their help, I was able to get some new equipment for that. So we're gonna have some new microphones and new tripod equipment and stuff. So we're excited for Volusia for sure. And so stay tuned for all that. Make sure you click the notification bell. Like I said, it's right next to the subscribe button. You won't miss an upload when we post. And again, one more shout out to Parts Companies LLC and Swagger Factory Apparel for all that they do for the podcast. And everybody that supports the channel. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned for this Wednesday night. Dave Booty coming on the show. Um, Feel free to comment right now if you're watching this all the way through. Make sure you comment. If you have a question for Dave, you can either reach out to me personally, or just contact me, comment on one of my posts or something like that. You can't miss my social medias. Of course, just look up my name, and they're pretty much going to come right up. But other than that, that's all I have for this evening's podcast. Hope you all enjoyed, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.